Hello everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to do something a little different. I usually do reactions and there's games played on this channel. Um, but instead of doing reaction stuff, I'm going to do something that's a little closer to what I enjoy, which is cars. I like all sorts of cars and trucks and tractor and trailers. I've been a mechanic for 20 years, grew up in a garage with my dad, who taught me the trade for the most part, and I figured let's do something that I enjoy, which, like I said, is cars, and let's do crazy cars, cars that most people haven't seen before, or know nothing about. So there's going to be someone here that some people might know. There's going to be someone here that people don't know. I know there's like two or three on here that I've never seen before. I have a little bit of the history on them and stuff like that. This is the kind of content that you like. Please hit the subscribe button, leave a like, and leave a comment. Jump down there in the comments. If you just hit emoji or anything like that, but you're more than welcome to leave a comment. Let me know what kind of cars you guys are into, or what kind of cars you think I should check out that I haven't seen before. Maybe, who knows? But without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this video and check out some of these crazy cool cars. And let's get into it. There it is. 1909 Ford Model T. Built by Henry Ford. And some crazy stuff that you guys might not know about it is this car, when it originally was built, as you can see here, there's no front brakes. No front brakes in this car. It has no shocks for suspension, for ride travel or ride comfort. And then he has a spring in the front, and there's also one in the rear. It also doesn't have a water pump to keep the engine cool, which is very, very unique. They did have several different versions of it. This is just the standard version. As you can tell, there is just a canopy over the driver's compartment. As you can see, the driving seating, it's very nice. This back seat doesn't look that very comfortable. I guess it would be, here's a better picture of it. It would be more along the lines of what you would consider a jump seat in some of the later cars after this. It's just a little seat. You can see it's not protected from the weather, nothing. This is basically the kid seat back in that time. Now, they did come up with other models. Like this would be considered a touring version. As you can see, the canopy covers an entire passenger compartment. It's actually a door on the rear passenger compartments too. That was probably put there for kids because the parents or the grown-ups would sit up front most of the time and the children would sit back here. There's another version. As you can see, it could actually fit up to 5 grown adults, and this one actually does have a front seat, or front door. So this would probably be a little bit later of a model, probably 11 or 12. I don't know these models that well. I just know Model T when I see it. I've ridden in one. They are very unique cars. That's all I can say. And for you people wondering what makes them so unique, let's blow this up a little bit. Makes them unique. It's a 3-pedal design, which we're familiar with. You drive a manual car, it has 3 pedals: your clutch, brake, and gas. It's not this way on the Model Ts. Here's your parking brake. In a Model T, this would be a forward shift pedal. So this would be your forward. This would be your reverse. And here's your brakes. Now think about that. Imagine driving that like this, and now any ends that know anything about cars or have driven a manual, you would say, well, where's the gas? The gas is right here. This would be your gas. So you would step on this pedal and use this for your gas. Same thing with reverse. You use this for your gas and step on the reverse pedal. This is your brake pedal. This is how you stop, which made them very, very unique. Here's a different view from straight down. And this was the best horn in the whole world. If anybody heard one of these cars, this is the old Aruga horn. loved these cars. They were just a great car. These cars were built just like this for 2 decades. 2 decades. They were built just like this until Henry's son and the sales staff finally convinced him to make a different model, which was the Ford Model A. Don't have a picture of a Model A. I should have grabbed one, but I don't. Moving on from the Model T, there's always people who's going to have bigger and better ideas. So the next car we're going to talk about is the 1911 Reeves Overlander. Yeah, Reese Overlander Octo Auto, which is this guy right here. This is the Octo Auto created by Milton Reeves. He thought because the roads were so back then and they were so bumpy and so rough to ride on, his idea in his head, for some odd reason, was to think, well, 4 tires make it that much rough. Let's decide to do 8 tires and 4 axles. That'll smooth it out. That'll make it run better. That'll make it drive better. So this thing with 8 tires and 4 axles went from being a Model T, standard size. You know, if you think about modern mid-sized cars, is what the Model T is roughly the size of. Maybe it's a little smaller. He decided to make this thing. This thing was 20 feet long. 20 feet long. It was ridiculous. And the crazy thing about this was he invented this car. He invented a couple cars, but this is the first one we're going to talk about. He invented this car to try to smooth out the road. Price in this car back in 1911 was $3,200. $3,200 for this car. Nowadays standards would be roughly $90K, if my math adds up right. $90K. And people were not happy with this car. It did not turn nice. It didn't do anything well. Nothing well at all. As you can see, with the 8 tires, the front 2 axles would actually turn, which was crazy. These front 2 axles actually turned, so this thing didn't steer very well. It didn't do anything very well. And believe it or not, when he premiered this car and everybody came to see it and put it on display, not a single person ordered this car. Nobody wanted it. Nobody. So what do? You try to make it better, turn better, and do other stuff. So he the following year in 1912, he designed this car. 6 tires, 3 axles. So the front tires are the only ones that turned. He dropped the one off the front to make it turn a little bit better. And again, nobody wanted this car. And this car was considered the Secto Octo, or Secto Auto. Sorry, the Secto Auto. And again, I'm probably going to butcher a lot of these names in here. But yes, he made the Secto Auto. Let's blow this up so you can see. And it says right here, the sister to the Octo Auto, the Secto Auto. Just unbelievable. The invention. People are just great. They really are great. This car, I mean, it's cool. Kind of reminds me what they did with, like, what was it called? The T-Rex, whenever they took the Dodge and added the extra 2 wheels in the back, the Dodge pickup truck. It's very cool. Very inventive for the time. Okay, so now we're going to move up a few years to the 1933 Dymaxion. 1933 Dymaxion. This was a very, very unique idea. It was built by a company called Buckminster Fuller, who actually coined the word Dymaxion. This was a three-wheeled vehicle, and it was built on the basis to be a land, sea, and air vehicle. So he was building this on the basis he was going to build one that could go on land, sea, and air, which means a boat, although it kind of looks like a submarine to a point. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, there's the fin. There's the fin. It's kind of submarine shape, so it may be underwater, but 1933, I would have to presume it would be on top of water. This car was very unique, as I say, because it was a three-wheel design, three wheels, rear wheel, and it was a little ahead of its time. I can't say if it was the first front-wheel drive car, but it's probably got to be one of the first in 1933 because these were the drive tires. The motor was in the rear. It steered in the rear, so it was a rear steel car. And oh, let me get a little bit bigger version of this. As you can see, rear steer, teardrop shape, very aerodynamic. Kind of reminds me of the old campers. What were they called? The Airstreams. You know, this shape kind of reminds me of the Airstreams. Maybe that's where they got the idea for the campers from. I don't know. Um, but being a rear steer single axle three wheel, high up, high center, you know, the weight of it's going to be up high. It turned extremely well, but the problem with it turning extremely well makes it very, very off center, rolling maybe, kind of tilty turby. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever driven a three wheeler, the three wheeler off road vehicles, UTVs, or whatever you want to consider them, the old three wheelers. They weren't very stable. It isn't like the new Can-Ams and stuff like that that have suspension on them that you can kind of lean and they won't fall over. This was all rigid frame. So there was no flex. So when it turned, it became very, very topsy-turvy, fall-overs type. So fortunately, the company ever only produced three of them. There's only three of them they were ever produced. The first one got wrecked. Next one was scrapped. The third one ended up as a chicken coop. Fortunately, somebody saw it, realized what it was when it was a chicken coop, and actually bought it off the person, I believe, or whatever, and restored it, which was nice. You know, it has been rebuilt, and this really spawned a whole replica series. So there's actually people that produce replicas of this vehicle. Now, to me, it's very, very spaceship esque. You know, kind of early 60s movie spaceship X, you know, something you would kind of see on um, like Star Trek or something like that, which leads me to these next couple of pictures, which are pretty crazy. I mean, look at that. That big fin on the back. I don't know if this is, I mean, this thing here looks like it's sticking out the sides, like maybe it was set up for the water. I mean, it looks really crazy. You know, I love the big fin. This is such a retro look. It looks really, really cool. Here's another angle of it. I mean, look at that. That just, that screams unique. Kind of looks like, you know, to me, it kind of looks like a fish that you would see in the water, like down in the deep, deep water that, you know, nobody's ever seen before. It's kind of crazy in that way. You know, I mean, look at the front end. Can you imagine that coming up behind you? What would you think that was? I mean, seriously, if you're driving down the road and you see something like that pull up behind you with those headlights this close, the turn signals up further, it's a big windshield. Can you imagine that coming up? You'd be like, what in the world is that thing? The cool thing that I really liked about it was the interior. The interior, beautiful. I mean, it's all wood, so this thing had to weigh a ton. I mean, there's different designs that people have done on the interior. I don't know if this is one of the replicas, if this is original. There was no specification online about it. But look at the interior. I mean, it's just, the woodworking is beautiful. The finish of the inside was nice. I mean, there's other variants that they have. I mean, look at this. It just screams retro to me. I mean, it really does just scream very retro. I mean, just beautiful lines. It's just so cool. So cool. I love this thing. Really hope at some point in my life I get to see one of these things, even if it's a replica. It's gorgeous. Okay, moving on from this car, we're probably going to go to a car that a lot of people have actually heard about. Probably not a lot of people have seen, and that would be the 1961 Amplicar. This car was known for two things. One, being a car, the other one being a boat. I mean, look at it. It looks cool. It really does. It's a very unique car. Multiple bright colors. I mean, you can see there's two props in the back. This car was deemed for being able to drive it right off of a dock, right into the water, and run it around water. Now, that being said, very cool for what it is, but it was technically half of a car and half a boat. And it didn't do either very well. I mean, it was powered by a 1.2 liter Triumph motor. Motor only produced 43 horsepower. You know, on the water, it only did 7 miles an hour on the water, which is not fast. So we're talking about a car that was not good at being a boat. Also, when you were in the water, the tires in the front were how you steered it in the water. Also on the ground, also when you were driving it, but also in the water, it used the front tires to steer, so it did not maneuver very well at all. It didn't move around to do anything well in the water. The 0 to 60 time was 40 seconds. Can you imagine getting in a car 40 seconds, 0 to 60? And top speed was only 70 mile an hour. So this was not a very good car either. But it looked cool. I mean, even the interior was remarkable color. I mean, it's the 60s. They were all loud colors. You know, it looked apart. I mean, it just looked apart. They stopped producing this car in 1963, but it was still being built until 1965 because they had so many parts that they could build them the whole way up to 65. So, with that being said, we're going to move on to the next one. The next one is probably one of the most interesting, if you ask me. It is one of the most interesting, if you ask me. And the reason I say it's the most interesting is because it's a 1968 Oldsmobile American Quality Coach Jetway 707. So what we mean by this is this car was built to solve one problem. It was built to solve one problem. And it was literally built as a limo for airports. It was built off the Toronto platform for Olds. It was built off the Oldsmobile Torontos. I meant to check that.
Oldsmobile Toronado.
Toronado.
Oldsmobile Toronado.
Okay, the next car from this is really cool. I really, really like it. It is the 1968 Oldsmobile American Quality Coach Jetway 707. This car was built to solve one problem. And apparently it didn't work. It was built as a limousine from the airport. That's what it was built as. It was built off the basis of a Olds Tornado. And it was supposed to be the luxury motors. As you can see, 3-axle, 6-wheel drive. This car was redesigned for this purpose. Literally, it has a new Vista roof style, plenty of room in the back for luggage, plenty of seatings. Look at all the doors. Very unique car. Very, very crazy how it was built. I mean, look at the back of it. I mean, it's just remarkable. I find it hilarious they have a hitch on the back because literally, what are you pulling with this thing? I mean, it came out with a new suspension system for it, a new braking system for it. The only thing they didn't do was make it a true 4-wheel drive, so the back axle was just a dummy axle. It was just there for the weight. That's all it was there for. I mean, look at the interior. It was a very, very basic interior. I mean, nothing spectacular. I mean, come on, it was the 60s. It isn't like they had crazy stuff back then. The seating, this one was apparently not restored yet, so it's a little dirty. But look at the seating in the back. Bench seats, 3 rows of regular seats. You know, it was literally built for people. I mean, this has stuff in it. It was built for going on the road. Now, of course, you have people that spawn ideas off of this, so apparently they made a convertible. Look at it. Convertible version of it. Why you would want it, I have no idea, but there's a convertible version of it. This thing is crazy. I love it. I'd love to see one. Now, with me doing some research and stuff like that, if you want to know more about this car, I actually found on YouTube here a community that's apparently doing a rebuild on one of these, I believe. And the name of that channel is Cleveland Power and Performance. So if you want to see what they did or see more details of the inside or more details about this car, I suggest going over their YouTube channel and checking it out. It's just a crazy looking car. Okay, from the 707 here, we're going to move up a few more years. We're going to go to 1983. 1983, we have the 1983 Glenn Fromm Fawcett. This was a very unique car. It was built by a British firm, Glenn Fromm, that specializes in rebodying Range Rovers to sell to the market in the Middle East. Now look at this car. This is a Range Rover. We all know Range Rovers were great for off-roading and stuff like that. This car has some very unique features. It has a target top, a hydraulic lift target top that you can store underneath the hood, or if you're from Britain, the bonnet. The crazy thing about this car is it definitely looks like something out of a 70s science fiction movie. You know, you kind of, this wouldn't surprise you to see me and see it in like Blade Runner or something like that, that style movie from, the late 80s, or I'm sorry, the early 80s, late 70s. This car was manufactured from Glen From, and back when they manufactured it, it was sold at 55,000 pounds. Today's market in US dollars, that would be $250,000 today. Only people in the Middle East would buy something like that. I mean, look at it. It's so unique. And the big knobby tires that are on it. I mean, you can get it in crazy colors. It has the canvas top like the Jeeps in the back you could have. So it was definitely a unique car. I mean, people had them. I mean, right there, it's in a parking garage somewhere. Somebody has this car in a parking garage somewhere. The interior, nothing spectacular. I mean, the 83, the fake wooden dash, and that's the only interior shot I could really find of the car. But you talk about a crazy, crazy looking car. This thing is just crazy. Unique. I mean, I've never seen one, never even heard of one, nothing. Which brings me up to the last on the list. The last on the list gets really crazy. I didn't know this car was built. I've never seen pictures of it. It was built in 2013. The name of the car is Ubine Puma. Ubina Puma. It was created by a doctor. And this strange behemoth is massive. This thing is 20 feet long, 7.5 feet wide. So it's 20 feet long, 7.5 foot wide. It is built, I should say, it's a combination of crazy stuff that you ever think. It's a combination of a Volvo C70 convertible, and for lack of better words, a monster truck. I mean, look at it. It looks like it's crazy. The front end kind of gives me Eclipse vibes. I don't know. Chevy Cavalier, the old rounded body style Chevy Cavaliers, the bubble Cavaliers. This here is just, look at this. Literally, this reminds me of something you would find in like a rock climbing gym. Like this, this looks like something that was attached to the wall. I have no idea what this here is for. It looks like, to me, it looks like somebody dented it. I mean, especially from the other angle. I mean, look at this other angle. It looks like somebody backed into the side of it. It's a crazy, crazy looking car. The other crazy thing about it is the motor. It has a 505 horsepower LS7 V8. That motor you would find in like a Z07, or sorry, a Z06 Corvette. I mean, it's a Z06 Corvette motor they have underneath the hood of this car. I mean, look at the interior. I mean, the interior is not spectacular. I mean, it has a Pioneer radio. I don't know what this is. I mean, it has, looks like aftermarket computer system in it. I push button start. I mean, the interior is crazy looking. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Now, I can tell you about the doctor because I read up stuff on that. I can tell you the doctor is a plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills. And he sold 3 of these. And he sold 3 of these for $1.1 million is what he sold these to. And I'm pretty sure you can guess that none of them were bought in the United States. They were all bought by overseas people. If I had to guess, Dubai, the Middle East, somewhere over there. So, with that being said, we are gonna end this video. Like I said, you guys hit the subscribe button. I'll come out with more crazy videos. Leave a comment. Tell me if there's any cars in this list that you want me to do a deeper dive into. Get more information about. I mean, I've only did just the surface, checking out some of the stuff that I kind of thought was interesting about the cars. If there's any other crazy cars, like I know the Bond Bug, the Izetta. I mean, there's lots of crazy cars out there in this world. There's cars that people just don't know about, like the ones that are big in like Europe, like what is it, the Turbo, the Renault Turbo. I mean, that's a very prevalent car over in Europe, but it never made it to the United States, at least not that version of it. I mean, you had to import it. I mean, there's plenty of cars we can do this on. I enjoyed this. I like this kind of content. If you're in the same boat, hit the subscribe, leave me a comment, let me know if you want me to do more. Now that being said, have a great day, evening, afternoon, whatever time you're watching this, and I will see you guys on the next one.